All right, what's up, everybody? This is the Rico Report. As you can see, Rico is not here right now. He is out for the weekend, or at least for tonight. He's away for today, so they got us filling in. If you don't know who I am Kyle Naparella. I run the Nap Knows Bills podcast. As you can see, it says that right below my name, Nap Knows Bills. I have with me, I have Clay Troya. I have Kevin Garrard. How you guys doing?
No, God, man. How are you?
Doing good.
Awesome. I'm excited. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to do anything with you yet, Clay, but we were talking before actually Kevin got on. And Kevin, last time we did a podcast together, we caused a little bit of a stir within Bills Mafia. So I'm excited. We can do it again.
Yeah. I'm always getting yelled at, so it's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we got a couple of good topics. We definitely want to get into the Raiders game for towards the end of the show. But before we do that, I want to make sure we cover some bases, make sure we get some bills paid, because we do have this deal with Manscaped now. And let me get this pulled up so that we can talk about Manscaped. I don't know if you guys use Manscaped, but if you're trying to make sure you do something, you want to make sure you're doing it with the right tools. And Manscaped is the right tools when you're going for trimming. If you want to be nice and smooth, you want to make sure you're using Manscaped. And this deal with Manscaped, let me find this promo code. Ooh.
Don't forget the ball deodorant, man. Don't forget the ball deodorant. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, have you used Manscaped before?
No, not yet. I've only heard great things about it though. So we're gonna have to see if I can use that promo code.
Yeah, definitely want to make sure whenever you're using Manscaped, you want to make sure you're using our promo code, which I cannot find in here for the life of me right now.
Just Fanatics.
Yeah, Fanatics.
Yeah, Fanatics. It is Fanatics. Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure we got that right. So promo code Fanatics, if you're using Manscaped, I believe that is 20% off. And make sure whenever you buy Manscaped, you're using the promo code Fanatics. So guys, let's get into this. I sent you over some of the topics that I wanted to talk about. And first thing that I wanted to get into, I want to make sure that we talk about the whole tight end situation with the Bills, because it's an interesting situation right now. We have a guy who we drafted in the 3rd round, Dawson Knox, and everybody was really high on him leading into the season, or at least I was. I don't know if you guys were as high on him as I was, but he hasn't had the start to the season that we thought he was going to have. We end up having an injury. He misses the game. Tyler Kroft steps in. Big time performance from Tyler Kroft. I want to get your guys' thoughts. Do you think that we should have a little controversy here? Do you think that Tyler Kroft should possibly be starting, or are you still all in on Dawson Knox? And I want to go to Clay first.
So for me, I think Knox is still the better tight end on the roster, just because of the way that Brian Daboll has kind of designed the offense to be very tight end friendly. Because once we cut Pat DeMarco, we didn't have anyone there to play fullback. So what Daboll's been doing pretty creatively is he's moving different guys into the backfield, and Dawson Knox is one of the guys that he's been putting into that. He's been motioning into that fullback spot, or putting him there right from the get-go a lot. So I think he's been doing a pretty good job of kind of playing that lead blocker role a little bit. I think he's a better blocker overall, and I think he's kind of just more of a better athlete in general. I think Kroft is a great receiving tight end. I think he's very athletic as well, but I think Dawson Knox is a little more well-rounded. I think he can fill in the role that Daboll wants his tight end to be able to do a little bit better than Kroft is able to.
All right. Yeah, and Kevin, I know you're not necessarily a Bills fan. You are the resident Dolphins fan for the Fanatics. But what are your thoughts? I mean, you've gotten to see Dawson Knox play against the Dolphins a couple times. He's scored a touchdown against you guys before. Are you in on Dawson Knox should be playing for the Bills, or do you think that there's a possibility that we could make a change for this season?
No, you got to stick with Knox. I mean, Croft's okay, but his last, what do you have? 6 catches for 24 yards or 4 catches for 24 yards last game? Let's not go nuts here. So Knox is a dynamic athlete, so he can't catch the ball. He
does struggle there. Yeah, he's got a lot of drop problems at the moment.
He's got to spend all of his time on the jugs machine. But Knox brings you explosiveness. He's got speed. He can threaten you in all various areas of the field. Croft has better hands. He's solid. He's dependable. But it depends. Are you going to cut your losses then with Knox and bury him on the bench? Like you put a sprint a third rounder on him. Like maybe see if he can develop. Like Clay was saying, he's a better blocker. Croft's the guy you can find on the waiver wire tomorrow. Like he's not a bad player. He's solid. He's good to have as your tight end too. That's really, he's a really good tight end too. But there's no upside. So I think you got to stick with Knox for at least a few more games just to see if he can tap into some of that upside. Yeah, I see some of the comments. Some of the guys want to run like a 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, but I don't like that for you guys either because, you want to spread them out. It gives Allen more rush lanes, and you got wide receivers the strength of your team right now. So you want to get as many of those on the field as you can. I just like Knox better. I think he's a better matchup option. I think he's harder to cover. He's just got to stop making bonehead plays like fumbling and stuff like that. I think if he gets a bit of confidence into him, then he'll blossom. But I think if you bury him on the bench right now, he's going to lose all of his confidence, and he might be a waste of a pick.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear. Like, I'm not saying that we should bury him on the bench, not play him at all. The question was really just because Croft. I mean, I do agree that I think Croft has better hands with what Corey said in his comment. We'll go back to that one. I think Croft does have better hands right now. He's more reliable at the moment, and I guess I was more thinking like I'd probably consider at the moment because Buffalo's in a win now mode, and I don't want to lose out on what Dawson Knox could be. But just thinking about being in a win now mode, maybe the better option is to split time a little bit more than they have been. Because if you get a guy who can be more solid, then maybe why not use him? The best guy should play, but that's not always the case. And sometimes the scheme does change that.
Yeah, it's just because you're in it's the beginning of the year. You guys you're not struggling to score points. This would be
not at all
a good time to your offense. Though it's being sarcastic. Like your offense is clicking on all cylinders here. So this is a good time to get him in here. And if he doesn't develop and he can't do the job, then you've always got Croft for your playoff run. But the ceiling for Croft is very limited. Like he's not going to get any better. This is what he is. He's got decent hands, and that's about it. He's not a threat. Like no one's going to worry about covering Croft. If Knox ever figures out how to just hold on to the ball, he's a threat. So I agree that right now, Croft's probably playing better, but it's still early. It's still a good situation to see what you got in Knox when it comes, like I said, later in the season. If he's still struggling, if he's not improving, then bench him.
Yeah. Clay, what are your thoughts on this comment from Christopher?
That's actually not a bad comment here.
Right?
Dawson Knox is the Josh Allen of tight ends. I could see that. He's kind of a little bit raw, but he's just a beast. He's a big physical presence in the offense, and I think that maybe it'll take him a little bit of a year to develop into the tight end that he can be. And I mean, even if you look back at his college days, he barely was running routes, catching the ball, anything like that. I think he had 9 catches in college. So I mean, he's not used to this. This is something that he's still really kind of getting into the flow of. And going back to a comment that we had earlier, where and Kevin mentioned it, where thinking about 12 personnel or something like that, putting 2 tight ends on the field. I agree with what Kevin was saying, where we like to run 10 personnel. That's what we've been running a lot of. We've been doing 4 wide, 1 in the backfield, and that's been a real go-to formation. And then I know Croft had 2 touchdowns last week, but Dable loves to find guys that you will not expect to score a touchdown and then throw them a touchdown. Gilliam has a touchdown this year, and Lee Smith has a touchdown this year. And there was one play in week 1 where Allen did a rollout play and ran it in for a touchdown, and Ryan Bates was his intended receiver on that play. So, I mean, as far as the touchdown things go, anyone on this roster can score a touchdown because Dable likes to throw that unexpected guy at you in the red zone. But yeah, I definitely think Knox is still a little bit raw. And like Kevin said, he needs to spend all his time with the jugs machine and just focus on getting the ball in his hands and keeping it there.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to note with Dawson Knox too is that just because I brought this topic up, I do think that he's very valuable in the run game too. I mean, that's how he was utilized when he was at Ole Miss. So I think we're probably all in agreement. Don't go off of Dawson Knox. Still make sure that he's a part of the system. And he did practice today, so it does look like he's going to play. Keeping it on Dawson Knox, do you think he's going to possibly have a good game this week, or you see him getting utilized in the game at least a little bit more than he has been so far?
I'd like to see it. I mean, week 1 we ran a screen pass to him, and I was like a giddy little kid when I saw that because we've been asking for that for a while just because we want the ball in his hands. And then the game where the game got blacked out, he had another great screen pass, ran it for 40 yards, but then he dropped the ball. So, I mean, I think they are trying to get him more involved. I think they should try to get him more involved. And he seems healthy. So, hopefully we'll have him in there. I'm not really sure if he'll have a breakout game. It'll be interesting to see how they use him.
Kevin, any thoughts on that? You think he might have a chance against this Raiders team?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you guys are going to be up pretty significantly pretty early on. You might see a lot of the running game this week. I think he's going to end up so you might see him in there because he's a better run blocker. But I expect you guys to be up by 2-3 scores relatively early. I think the Raiders don't match up well with you guys.
Yeah. And before we move on, I want to make sure we didn't get this out before. Super chatters, you guys get priority. So if you do want a comment and you want to make sure that it does get read, make sure you put it in as a super chat. So we'll make sure super chats get priority. We do have 9 likes at the moment. Smash that like button, and let's keep this thing rolling. Let's transition over. I want to talk about the offense. And, well, I guess technically it's more specifically the defense, because the defense hasn't necessarily been all that we thought it was going to be. Well, I'll start with you, Kevin, because you might have a little bit different of an opinion here. Do you think that the Bills offense can carry the Bills defense if they don't improve?
I think can they? Yes, but I think the defense will improve. It's too talented. It's the defense has been carrying you guys for the last 3-4 years. The offense can carry some of the water now. I think they'll catch up. I think you played Miami. It's a division game. It's like weird things happen when you play division games. You played the Rams. I don't know. That was real weird too. Like you guys were dominating them, and all of a sudden they caught fire. But they're not a bad offense, right? And I think the defense is going to catch up. I think that you got some new pieces on the defensive line. You're trying to figure out how you're going to put Addison and Jefferson and all these guys in there. I think you're figuring out your rotation. Obviously, when Milano and Edmonds missed the game against Miami, that hurt. I think both of them are back and you're going to be playing this game. It'll come together. But I think as of right now, to answer your question, yeah, your offense can carry. Especially, I don't think too much about the Raiders. I think their secondary is not very good, and I think you guys are going to shred them.
Yeah, agreed. Before I get yours, Clay, Steve, shout out Steve. Too much talent on this screen. I'm overwhelmed. I appreciate it. I know everybody else does. Clay, I feel like you probably appreciate that too. Kevin, I know you appreciate that too. Clay, let me get your.
Go get it.
What was that, Kevin?
I had to go get my Red Bull. Sorry about that.
You're all good. You're all good. But Clay, let me get your thoughts on that. Do you think that the Bills offense can carry the defense if it doesn't improve?
I think they can, and I think the best example of that was last week against the Rams. The Rams have a great football team. I mean, Sean McVay has been coaching them up so well this year. His game plan, he stuck to it so well in the second half. He kept on running the ball, and Henderson was just tearing it up. And then that opened up a lot of plays for Jared Goff off play action, because that's their bread and butter is play action. No one's run more than them. So, he really stuck to that run game, kept the play action working. And they really torched the defense in the second half. The Rams did. They really torched our defense. And then you saw the offense built up a nice early lead, and then they ended up coming back for the win. So I think they can carry, and we saw an example of that last week. But I do think that the defense will come around eventually. Last year, it was, early on, the defense was struggling a little bit as well. Maybe that's something Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott just need to sit down and have a conversation about and really figure out what's going on there and really, kind of nail it down. But I think the defense will catch up eventually. And if they don't, then we're just going to need Josh Allen to not stop the production that he's doing in order for us to be successful still.
I agree. Real quick, I haven't done this before, but we got a new member. I feel like I have to do it. I don't have anything, so I just gotta use my desk. But we got a bing, biggity bing. We got a new member. Shout out Michael Green. Thank you. Did I do that well enough, guys? Was that good?
Bad. Well, because Rico, he basically, I don't know if I've been physically beside him when he just hammers the bell and the thing's popping up. He's an excitable lad. Where is he? Oh, he's at a cottage this weekend, actually.
Yeah.
Ladies,
I know. I can't rival the way Rico does it.
No,
that's for sure.
He's very talented at hammering the bell. It's his greatest strength.
Yeah. I did my best though, No,
it was good.
So I think trying to get back to, here we go, Pierre's comment. I'm nervous of seeing how good the offense is. Not used to this. I think I kind of fall in line with this, right?
Oh, he's full of shit.
No. So hear me out.
No, I know you. I trust you. But I mean, look, nervous Nelly down at the bottom all summer. He's been in the chat whining about Josh Allen's the MVP, and now all of a sudden he's not used to this. Nostradamus has been predicting it for 3 years. Now all of a sudden he's afraid. Come on.
I get why you're going to call Pierre out for that, because of how boisterous he was, especially this past offseason. So I get that. But for me personally, I have never actually seen a really good Bills offense. It's like the first game that I ever watched was I want to say it was like the 31-0 Bills game against the Patriots back in like 2001. So I don't have, Lawyer Malloy. I don't have a good grasp on what it's like to have a good offense, really, because even Drew Bledsoe had like 1 or 2 good years, but even then I was young. So I'm getting used to it, and I'm still used to the defense carrying the team. So I'm not going to lie. I am a little nervous that will the offense be able to keep up this production throughout the year? Because I just haven't seen it happen. And I'm not used to a quarterback that's good in Buffalo. I'm not used to an offense that's a pass-happy offense. I actually said this on the podcast. I'm still just kind of learning. I'm relearning how to be a fan, because I'm learning how to be a fan of a good team now. So it's a little different for me. Clay, do you feel similar to that, or is it different for you?
I feel the same way. I'm young enough to pretty much only have memories of the Bills not being a good football team, or at least not having an offense. So it was a little shocking for me in the first watching last week's game when they were just throwing up first half numbers like it was nothing. I didn't even know how to react. I'm just kind of sitting back and saying what is happening right now? I've never seen this before, but I think this is the new Josh. I think he's kind of arrived. He's not going to put up 300 yards every week, 300 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns every week. It's impossible to keep up that kind of production, but I think where he is right now I don't think there's going to be much regression for him. I think he's kind of figured it out. Him and Dable have a great thing going. I think they've really figured out where Josh's strengths are and how they can best work that into the scheme. You've seen a lot of common routes, like the over routes, the crossing routes. That's been their bread and butter this year. And Allen's been able to put the ball in a perfect spot. So I think he's here to stay. And, we'll see where it goes from there. But I don't think there's going to be too much regression from him.
And in terms of with this defense, go to Heather's comment. I feel like the defense is not in football shape yet to make 4 quarters of football. The Rams really showcased that. Combine that with McVay's window dressing offense. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this? Like, do you think that just being in football shape, not having the preseason, is affecting the defenses more, or do you think that there's something else that's going into it?
I'm not so sure about the actual conditioning, but there might be something to, with no preseason, no OTAs, the amount of tackling was severely limited. There was very little to almost none live tackling. I don't know if the Bills, so I know the Dolphins, I don't think they had one scrimmage where they actually had live tackling where they bring someone to the ground. So I think a lot of teams are in that situation this year, and that's why you're seeing a lot of defenses struggle, because there was no tackling at all until week 1. So I think the defenses are a little bit more, normally the offenses are a little bit behind the defense, and they got to catch up mostly because of the cohesiveness. But this year, I think the defense has to catch up because this is the first time they're getting real live drills.
Yeah, Clay, anything on this one? The offense is good, but that bend don't break defense will keep us all on blood pressure pills. I know I was feeling it actually the last 2 games, really, against your Dolphins, Kevin. Sorry, not sorry. And then against the Rams, like, I was feeling it. I had high blood pressure during those games because it just seemed like it was that bend don't break defense, but then it broke a couple times. Do you have any worries about that?
I mean, kind of going back to the last comment as well, with maybe they're not as in good shape. Credit the Rams in their playbook as well, because their time of possession, I think, just kind of broke the Bills a little bit there toward the end. Their time of possession and the way they just kept on running the ball, that'll tire a defense out. And so I think the bend don't break. I think that's still kind of the way they are. I think that the Bills as a team that's the way they are. You see a lot of 4th quarter comebacks from the Bills. Goal line stands we haven't really had too many problems with in the past. I think that's kind of the way that the team operates is in a bend don't break type of a way. So I mean, we'll kind of see how it is, but it's keep those blood pressure pills around, because I think we're going to have a few more close games this year. The schedule is really tough, so keep those around, because I think it will be kind of a bend don't break type of a year as a whole.
Yeah, real quick, got to get this one up. Fluffy Panda, shout out Fluffy Panda. Thank you for the super chat. To be young, LOL. We gonna be good. I remember the Kelly Lofton, Reed, McKellar, BB 90 to 95 days. Allen with Sean leading is exciting again. I got to say, I don't even have a remote chance of remembering those days, because I was born in 95. So I couldn't even – I would never have even had a chance. But the bend don't break defense worries me a little bit. What was that, Kevin?
You guys never saw Thurman.
I mean, I've seen like highlights of him and whatnot, but I never got to watch any of those guys live, obviously.
Yeah. A lot of tears spilt at my house over Thurman Thomas. One of the greatest moments of my life is when he put on the Dolphin jersey for his last season.
Yeah. I always forget that he played for the Dolphins. I've seen pictures of it a couple times. It just looks weird. Stuff like that freaks me out. There's been a couple of other guys.
Cardinals.
Yeah, and then it's just some that are weird, like Jerry Rice when he played for, I think he played for like the Seahawks at the end of his career, and there's some real weird ones. Yeah. I wish he didn't do that. Even though I didn't get to watch him play, I wish he didn't turn over to the dark side.
It's amazing.
No, it was not. We're never going to agree on that.
And Thurman too, during that span, he was the only one on the team that ever won an MVP, right? I don't think Kelly ever got one.
Did he? He got one?
He did? I think in back-to-back years he won one and Thurman won one, I think.
Okay. I couldn't remember, honestly, but I knew that Thurman had won an MVP. Running back, that's not always very common, but his all-purpose yard stats alone, it would have been incredible to see him play. He just seemed kind of like a McCaffrey type where he can just do it all.
Yeah, he was. For my money, he was better than Emmitt Smith, and I think he was better than Emmitt Smith, like hands down. Like I think The only running back in the last, whatever, since the 90s that I've seen that was better than Thurman Thomas, for sure, is Barry Sanders. And then after that, maybe Marshall Faulk was very similar, like LaDainian Tomlinson, those guys you can have an argument. But for my money, Thurman's the second best running back since like 1990, we'll say.
Wow.
Lone Wolf says, I guess you don't remember Joe Ferguson. No, not a chance that I remember or got to watch Joe Ferguson.
Lone Wolf, do you remember Jack Kemp and his jump passes?
Yeah, we'll have to monitor this and see if he responds to that. Oh, here's another one. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, Thurman. We'll go to Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith to Washington. He was still productive. I saw it. He's another guy I didn't actually get to physically watch because by the time I was really watching games, he was at the end of his career and he was with Washington. But he's a guy I really wish I got to watch Bruce Smith play because just dominant.
Miami, but in those years, Miami had like a perennial Pro Bowl left tackle, Richmond Webb. Like every year, Richmond Webb went to the Pro Bowl, and they would play because in those years, you didn't swap like you do now. If you were a right end, you played right end, and that was Smith's spot. So you always went against the left tackle, and it was always like the big matchup. It was going to be how's Richmond Webb against Bruce Smith. Smith won more than he lost. Let's put it that way. Webb might one day go to the Hall of Fame. Like I remember Taylor. Jason Taylor left and ended up in the friggin' Jets. No, I didn't like that.
Yeah, I want to go back to a comment that I saw previously while we were having that discussion. Bills D isn't keeping up with the halftime changes. What was that?
Oh, I thought it was the comment about how big my Red Bull was. I saw like 4 comments.
I saw that comment. That one made me laugh. And then we got another one from Pierre saying that he's going to buy you a new mic. But no, I want to talk about this one because this is something that I've mentioned a lot on my show, on my podcast, on Nap Knows Bills. But the Bills D isn't keeping up with the halftime changes by the offense. The first 2 weeks against the Jets and then against the Dolphins, it seemed like it was pretty much just a third quarter issue. It didn't really hit until after that bad interception.
You recall Miami went right down the field at the end of the half and scored.
You're right. Actually, it did happen because that and the same thing happened against the Jets. They scored a field goal right before halftime. Yeah. But with the Rams game, it happened later on in the game. It didn't happen until after the interception. But it does feel like Sean McDermott struggles to make those in-game adjustments once the other team makes those in-game adjustments that they need to make. I mean, that worries me a little bit. Clay, does that worry you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been probably something, and I think even the offense in the past has struggled with that as well because those third quarter collapses used to be more on the offense than they were on the defense. This year, It's been the opposite case where it's been more the defense has been letting in too many points, whereas before, I mean, pretty much the entirety of last season, we'd go into the third quarter and the Bills lay an egg, and it's just so frustrating to watch. And, you got Dable giving Frank Gore, an outside zone play 3 times in a row, all for -2 yards, things like that. I mean, and so I think it used to be Dable couldn't kind of adjust to those, and now maybe it's the defense can't adjust to those things, and which is a little surprising from McDermott and Frazier because those guys are really smart and very good schematically. So it's a little bit surprising to see, and it is kind of worrying to me to see that they're not able to really keep up. But yeah, I mean, going back to what Kevin was saying too, Fitzpatrick had played a great game in the second half. He was slinging the ball all over the place, fitting it into tight windows, even guys that were really covered up. He was able to get it into them. He was really throwing the ball around all over the place. And then it was the same thing with Goff and the Rams. They were just playing so well. So for me, it's kind of hard to determine whether or not it's our defense isn't doing well or the other team's just doing amazing. But when it's been this consistently in the third quarter, you got to think something's got to give. Something's up.
Yeah, so real quick, because I know you are more of an X's and O's guys than I am. I'm definitely not the guy to come to when you're talking about X's and O's. Just from what you've seen, is there anything that you think the Bills could do differently to adjust? Like, at least just strictly speaking on the Rams game recently. Was there something that you thought that they could have done differently?
So I watched through kind of the whole collapse there, the third quarter through the fourth quarter, to see what was going on. And it was kind of just a combination of a bunch of little things against the Rams, really. It was a missed tackle by Edmonds here. It was shooting the gap too aggressively for both linebackers there. It was good blocking by the Rams where the D linemen are not taking up those double teams, and the offensive linemen for the Rams could easily get to the second level and seal off the linebackers. So it was little things like that. Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano got caught in the same spot in the field at one point and gave up a big play like that. It was really just a lot of little things that just kept on piling up. And maybe that's a confidence thing coming out where it's, the other team starts to drive on you a little bit. Maybe you lose a little bit of confidence and get over aggressive. Because I think, there are times when you really see guys kind of flying around with not much direction. They're going to go. So I think, missed tackles is a big one. Tremaine Edmonds has been missing too many tackles this season. I've been kind of disappointed with his play because we all expected him to have a huge breakout year. It's his third year and he was looking big in the offseason. So I'm a little disappointed with the way that he's been playing. So hopefully he takes a step forward, for the rest of the season here. But they really just need to tighten down everything, I think, and just play really disciplined, do your job type of football.
So you're kind of along the lines of what Brian's saying, is that it's starting to wonder if it's an execution thing with the Bills defense just being behind the 8 ball right now. You think it's more of that than the scheme thing?
I think so. I hope so, at least. It's really hard to tell, though. Schematically speaking, I know a little bit more about the offense than I do about the defense. So I guess I wouldn't really be one to kind of know if the scheme is not working properly. But, when you're playing against a good team too, you can't beat perfection. And sometimes that's what the Rams did, especially on those run plays. When I was watching those offensive linemen just get to the second level, it was really impressive. It was really impressive to see how well they did.
Yeah, and I'm going to switch it over to this comment. Shoulder injuries make you play timid. That's in reference to Tremaine Edmonds. He did have the missed tackle against Jamison Crowder, and then I can't remember if it was a missed tackle or if it was just pretty much just poor defense on his part just in general against Robert Woods, but he was the guy who could have made the play on both of their touchdowns. So that was definitely a little concerning for me. Kevin, do you think that where are you at? Because obviously you have a very different perspective, especially since you already got to see the Bills defense against your Dolphins. Did you think that it was just like the Bills were not executing? I know that's a little different of a situation since Edmonds and Milano both weren't out there, but what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I've seen all the games this year. I think a big majority of it is just poor tackling. There's too many plays that you guys have had an opportunity to get someone to the ground, and it hasn't happened. If you get those tackles, then we're not talking about these big gashing plays. The other thing that's concerning is how easily the Rams were running last week. So I think a lot of this stems from your defensive line. I think, again, the new pieces, I think there is an execution thing, and I think there's a lack of familiarity. It's the only area on your team that you don't have a bunch of returning starters, especially considering Star Lotulelei is out, and you've got new defensive tackles, because what's his name there? Henderson. Oh my God. He was there were plays where he wasn't being touched 5-6 yards downfield. You have too much talent for that to happen. So it has to be they're missing assignments and they're missing tackles, and you got to clean that up. And Edmonds, I love Edmonds. Like, if I could pluck one Bill from they put on Miami, it'd be Tremaine Edmonds. But he misses a lot of tackles in the hole, man. He's got to clean that up a bit. He's fantastic in coverage. I'd love to see them blitz him more, but. I don't know. He wasn't right last week because he's just coming back from injury. I'm not sure, but he didn't have a very good game last week.
No, and he really hasn't had the best start to the season. I mean, it was mentioned already. Like, a lot of Bills fans thought he was going to have like this extreme breakout year, and it just hasn't happened yet. Maybe it is just due to injury, but I got to be honest. If the Bills can't stop the run this week, I don't know if the offense I mean, the offense should be able to do really whatever they want against the Raiders. But this upcoming stretch that the Bills have, it worries me if the Bills can't figure out a way to stop the running game. Because if Darrell Henderson is running all over you, if like that's a problem. You got to be able to figure out how to find those gaps, fill the gaps, and just bring him to the ground so he's not getting 5 yards on top.
I don't know. Is Kevin frozen for you too?
Yeah,
I'll jump in here real quick then. And Josh Jacobs too is currently leading the league in yards after contact.
I mean, with the Raiders, you got 2 guys that maybe would be concerned.
Kevin, you froze out for a little bit, so we missed a lot of that.
It's gold. It's too bad. I can't remember it now, but I'm sure it's amazing. But yeah, no, I think I'm still a little frozen because you guys are chopping in and out. Must be me.
All right, let's take like a 30-second break real quick. Just a quick 30-second break. See if I'm going to try unplugging or not unplugging. I'm going to try just reconnecting my router, see if it's on my end. So we'll give a 30-second break, and then we'll come back and keep this going. That work?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Let me just pull that up, and then we'll be good to go. There we go. All right, 30 seconds. All right, we are back. Sorry about that, guys. We just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to give you guys the best show possible. And if we're having internet connections, it's worth taking that break. All right, so got somebody in the background. Clay, can you unmute your mic?
My bad. I muted myself there.
There we go.
We got a premium comment though that came in while we were on the break there from the Pullout King. Wonderful name, first of all.
There we go. The Pullout King. Kev has Dolphins in.
Kevin is also over the border. He's up north, so I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it as well. But
Kevin, do you want to respond to the allegations from the Pullout King that you have Dolphins internet?
I don't even know what that means. Does it mean it's mediocre? It's destined to be 8-8 for the last 30 years?
Jeff Fisher internet.
That is the ultimate mediocre.
Yeah, the Jeff Fisher. I like that. I'm going to dial up some personal files.
But going back to what we were saying before the break as well, about the run defense and talking a little bit about Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has one of the best yards after contact stats so far this season, and he's just a beast. His quickness through the hole, and then he likes to get through the hole and make a cut, and he's so good at it that I really think I'm hoping Tremaine and Milano can do a better job of filling the gaps, because everyone's tackling needs to be really solid this week. And he's still going to get those big runs. He's going to get some gash runs on us where he's running 20+ yards a couple times. It's going to happen. He's too good of a running back for that not to happen. So it's really just about limiting those and not getting down on yourself when that does happen. And then, like I said, you can't stop perfection, and he's going to have those runs. So it's just about, managing those and making sure that those are to a limited, and getting to an early lead as well. I think it's going to be big. Keep Derek Carr, make him drop back, make him throw the ball, and that getting an early lead will definitely help doing that.
Yeah, they definitely don't want to play from behind. Here we go. All right, we got a nice chat from KR Grief. Get him, Clay.
I think that's one of my friends. Thank you, Zach. I'm assuming that's who that is. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, he worries me a little bit just because he is such a talented running back. Like him and Darren Waller are really the only two guys on the offense currently that actually make me worry, because some of the other guys that are talented are a little banged up. But if he gets going, I think there's a chance that the defense could end up having, a showing like they had against the Rams, where they just get tired out because it's long drive after long drive after long drive. Because it's not like the Raiders' offense is this quick hitter offense. We want to get out. We want to throw the deep ball. We want to score quick. That's not what they do at all. That's not even what Derek Carr likes to do. And in a John Gruden offense, they are trying to be more methodical, work the ball down the field a little slowly, and like that can tire a defense out. And eventually you get worn down by the fourth quarter. You end up seeing what we saw last week. That really does worry me this week against the Raiders, even though they are banged up.
You guys are going to crush them. Yeah, you're nervous. I get it, But your defense is designed, you play cover 3 zone. It's to keep everything in front of you, come up and tackle them, And that's what the Raiders like to do. They like to go short, 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 short. So the Raiders' game plan is literally to do what your defense is designed to make them do. It's a horrible matchup. As long as Jacobs doesn't run, what's his name? Henderson ran for like 100 and some yards, and it didn't really matter. As long as Jacobs you can hold them to under 200, you're going to win. Like it's the only thing that might be slightly concerning is you've been having some struggles with play action passing. If they hit Henry Ruggs over the top, but Carr's such.
I don't think Ruggs is playing. I think Ruggs is probably out. I think he's listed as doubtful right now because of hamstring.
About that. You know what I mean? Like Carr's, he's so cowardly. He doesn't like to attack down the field. It's going to be great for you guys. I don't even see this being a game. I think it's going to be like 37-17.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to be a very close game, but I can't lie. I won't lie and say that like there's nothing that worries me. I think Brian does have a good point here that maybe the Bills miss Star a little bit more than some fans or some media members thought that they were going to, because they don't have that real run-stopping defensive tackle at the moment.
Yeah, Brian always has good points. He's a good one.
I really like that point as well, missing Star a little bit. I think Harrison Phillips hasn't really been that a good enough replacement to just kind of be the big guy, because someone on that D-line needs to take up 2 blockers. And if you don't do that, your run game is really going to suffer. And, in your pass rush too, on pass rush, you want someone there that can be good enough where you say, we need to put 2 guys on him. And the Bills D-line just doesn't really have anyone like that. So, we've kind of seen the carousel throughout the season of Bills bringing in guys at D-tackle, trying them out. We kept a few. There's been some experimental guys where we throw them in a little bit, and then the next week he's cut and we pull someone else up. So I just think that interior defensive line has kind of been struggling when they run the ball, because they're not taking up enough blocks. They're not creating enough havoc up there in the middle. And that's such an important part of run defense. So I think that's the biggest improvement they need to make, really, probably, as far as the run defense goes.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point by Jesco Bills. Not good when our secondary is leading in tackles. You definitely don't want the guys who are in that secondary to be leading in tackles, especially against a team that runs the ball really well. So, I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't looked at the specific stats of who's leading in tackles currently, but if our corners and our safeties are leading the team in tackles against the Raiders, I think that's going to be a problem.
My guess would be that's probably Poyer at the top right now. He's been killing it this season. He's been flying around and hitting people. I think this has been Jordan Poyer's best season so far. Maybe you're not hearing his name quite as much, but he's there. He's flying around. He gets to the quarterback. I think he's already got a sack this season or close to it.
Yeah, he's a little in game 2 covering the tight ends. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure, Kevin. I'm sure. Let's. So I actually want to get to the next topic, and we have a perfect comment here to kind of bring us into it. And Jack Chris says Cam Newton is better than Allen. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna just flat out say no. But the reason I wanted to bring this comment up is because we haven't seen this Josh Allen until this year. Like, we've seen him progress. And Kevin, when we talked about how like he hasn't been fully where he needs to be yet, but now he's kind of getting there. You see the progressions he's making. And this year it's just been like a full out boom. He, instead of taking that next step, he took like a huge giant leap. And the question that I want to pose to you guys is, can Josh Allen keep up what he's doing throughout the entire year, or is he going to regress? And if he does regress, like, how much do you think that it's back to where it was before? Like, not like fully into last year's like production, but how much, if he doesn't keep this production up, how much do you think he kind of regresses from his current statistical production?
What do you want to start with?
Let's start with you. I'm actually interested in yours because this is where we stirred up some controversy last time.
First off, Daniel Guaris, he didn't throw for 400, but he did throw for, I think, what did he throw for, 393? Just addressing the comments. But
right there, yeah. Yeah, no. Cam hasn't thrown. I think he might have thrown for 400 I think he did throw for 400 his first game as a rookie, and then I don't think it happened after that. Because that was his best passing year, at least yards-wise.
Yeah, but he threw didn't he throw for like 390 or something against Seahawks there a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, he had a really good day, at least yards-wise, throwing the ball.
Yeah, I was impressed because I was waiting to see what his shoulder looked like. But in regards to Allen, well, he's not going to keep this pace up, but that's not a knock on him. It's just like, I don't think Russell Wilson's going to throw 72 touchdowns. But he's not going to return to where he was. You can definitely tell this offense that you guys are running, you got guys running wide open over the field, and your offensive line's been giving him some good time to pass for the most part, and at least better than years past. And he just looks very calm. That's the thing I notice about him. Every now and then he does one of his weird bonehead things, like when he threw the ball out of bounds there the other day. But for the most part, in the pocket, he's calm. So your receivers are so good. They're getting wide open, but it takes a little bit of time. And he's so patient. He just waits, and he doesn't panic. And then when they're open, he gives them the ball. So I think a light has definitely gone on. I think that he's not going to go back to the way he was. And, he'll regress a bit, but that's just natural. But yeah, no, I think he's miles better than he was last year.
Do you want to apologize for angering some Bills fans from our podcast earlier this offseason?
Oh, no, because I don't think I was wrong when we talked about where he was at last year. And that's what I mean. He's light years better this year.
He is. I mean, that's what he took a huge leap instead of just a step that everybody wanted him to take.
Yeah, exactly.
Real quick, shout out to Jeffrey Green. Thank you for the super chat. I think the Bills will win the division. I do too. I think a lot of Bills fans would agree with that. Clay, your thoughts on Jeffrey's comment real quick?
I agree. Win the division. I think it's going to be fairly easy. It's hard to say when Bill Belichick's still around. I don't ever want to say fairly easy when you're facing Bill Belichick. It doesn't matter who he's got at quarterback. And the defense, they had half their defense opt out, and they're still playing pretty well. So, I mean, when there's Bill Belichick around, it's never going to be easy. It's hard to win games in the NFL. It's what Sean McDermott likes to say every week. It's hard to win games in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So, and I think the Patriots, they're going to come in with a game plan that that's going to be a blood pressure pills game. I think both games against the Patriots. I would like it not to be. I would love for the Bills to blow out the Patriots, just because it's something I've never seen in my life before. But I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think it's going to be, a pretty solid division win for the Bills. I think the Patriots maybe go around 500, maybe a little bit above. But
I don't think they will. I think they're
really
better than I thought they were.
Yeah, I do too. I think that the Patriots, leading into the year, I actually thought that the Patriots were going to be pretty. I thought they were going to be pretty bad, like 6-10, 7-9. I'll say that flat out. I was wrong about the Patriots. They're better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah,
and
they're 7-9, 8. I don't think so. I think they're a 10-win team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fight.
I think the Bills will be better, but I do not think it's going to be a runaway. I think that the Patriots, because we didn't know how healthy Cam was, right?
And he looks a lot better than I thought he was going to. He's not necessarily just slinging the ball around all over the place, but they've kind of molded their offense around what he does, and they've shown that they can switch it up when need be. So it's not like they're going to be a pass-happy offense like the Bills are, but with his abilities, and he looks pretty healthy at the moment, if he stays healthy, I mean, they definitely have the possibility to be a pretty potent offense because they have that ability to switch things up.
They still have that secondary.
Yeah.
It's going to be the best matchup for the year. Could be Bills receivers versus the Patriots secondary. And it'll just depend on if they can get to Allen, because if they give him all day like Miami did, oh my God, it's going to be the same thing. But if they can, I think that's going to be the best matchup of the whole season. Like for any team, that's the matchup I'm most interested in watching. That's not Miami related, obviously, but is your receivers versus those DBs and how that goes down. I still think you guys will win the division, but the Patriots, I think, are going to make a wild card.
Yeah, and let's go to this comment real quick to get back on the Allen talk. Dable and Allen both stepped their game up this year from Abe Froman. I mean, that's huge. Not just Allen getting better, but it does feel like Dable is calling a more consistent game because, I mean, I think everybody can agree that Dable has always been a good play designer. That's kind of how he's always been described. He's an offensive coordinator who knows how to design plays, but we've seen that he doesn't necessarily always call the game script the way it fits best against the opposing defense. I feel like this year, with what the Bills have, he doesn't necessarily have to worry about that, but he's just guys just seem to always be open with the plays that he's drawing up right now.
Oh, you can't even see defenders in the screen. I know for your first two, maybe even your first three touchdowns that Allen threw, there was no one around the receiver. No one was around Lee Smith. No one was around, with like these guys. Like they're wide open. The pass to Gabe Davis, no one was around him. I've never seen receivers so open. Like it's crazy. I know they're very talented, but the play calling must have something to do with that. Like even like the ones like week one there where Allen missed Knox in the end zone, he missed Brown in the end zone, but like those guys were uncovered. It's crazy. I think Dable's done a really good job this year. You've incorporated some screen game, which you didn't have before, and that's a new wrinkle. You still have your elements of quarterback power and stuff like that you're running, but oh man, like he's running really good concepts out there, and I really like his. You can tell he focused a lot this year on how to go against man-heavy teams, specifically, I guess, because New England and Miami run a ton of man. And your over concepts and your deep in concepts that you're running this year, you weren't running those last year. It was all, on third and short, it was all slants to Beasley and then, bombs to Brown and stuff like that. The passing attack looks completely different to me.
Yeah, it is. It's completely different. Real quick, got to go to this one. Shout out to Jeff King.
Whoa!
I know, right? Yeah. Shout out Jeff King.
Open up the wallet.
Right. Jeff King, we appreciate you. Definitely. Buffalo Fanatics appreciates you, Jeff King. He says anything less than winning the division will not be received well. I'm hoping our defense starts to play up to form. We supposedly upgraded from Lawson. Let's start seeing it. I'm gonna give it over to Clay for this one. Do you think that like the upgrades, because I think we upgraded from Lawson, at least in the short term, maybe he ends up being better in the long term, but what are your thoughts on that comment, more specifically the upgrade on Lawson?
I mean, Lawson was kind of a run-stopping specialist. You didn't really see him as much in the pass rush. He would get there every once in a while. Him and Jordan Phillips both were they were around. But I think when he didn't really pan out as the pass rusher that we had hoped he would be, he did step up in the run defense, and I think that has been an issue because especially he was really good at maintaining his maintaining that side, making sure he was forcing people inside, wasn't letting people get those outside runs. He was a pretty big presence for a defensive end there. He was a larger guy, played in a little bit of a different system. So I think. Did we upgrade? It's hard to say. It really is hard to say because I think our upgrades were more about the pass rush than they were about the run defense.
Right.
So I think maybe we upgraded, but it wasn't in the same category. So I think we maybe upgraded in one category and kind of went down. Thank you, Joseph. Setting the edge. That was the term I was looking for. Lawson's really good at setting the edge. And so, maybe we just don't have something like that anymore. It's something that I've not really looked at too much is, how's Lawson's replacements doing? And what's going on that's so different. But did we upgrade? What do you think? I mean, what do you think, Kevin? He's on your team now. So what have you seen from him this year so far?
Nah, didn't do too well. He's been okay. Like you said, you have to set the expectations. Miami brought him in. I think they pretty much brought him in because of he plays well against Miami, and last year his showcase game was there. I was literally just the lone wolf and I are brothers. I'm telling you, his best game last year was against Baltimore. And
by far his best game.
Miami's always struggled against mobile quarterbacks. I think they specifically brought him in to play against the zone reads and that sort of thing. But last year going into the draft, my biggest concern with Buffalo was pass rush. Where's your premier pass rusher? And you got Mario Addison. And when it comes down to playoff time and you got to get those stops, I'd rather have Mario Addison than Lawson, because getting a guy that finally having a premier pass rusher, he's underrated and unknown, but he gets like 10 sacks every year.
I think he's in the top 5 of total sacks over the last 4 years for the entire NFL, top 5 or top 10 or something like that. But he's up there. Like, you're right. He's consistently getting sacks.
Yeah, I see that Addison's hurt, but you got to judge the move on skill sets and before the year. So I think upgrading your pass rush there is what's needed. And maybe throughout the year, you drafted Epinesa, and Epinesa is that bigger, 275 defensive end. He's like your classic old left end that you would put out there to really anchor against the run. So I'm not sure where he's at with his development. You guys will probably know that better than me. But to me, Epinesa can be that. He'd be ideal, at least from a dimensions and physical standpoint, to replace Manny Lawson. And then you bring Addison in on third downs and passing situations.
Yeah, and he is, just to kind of echo Scott Blakely, he is questionable Sunday. He didn't practice today, I believe, downgraded for the last day of practice for the week. So definitely not something you want to see with Mario Addison, but we'll see. I mean, hopefully he plays. Hopefully he's good to go, because I think he has 2 sacks on the year already, right? Clay, am I right about that?
Who's that, Addison? Or
yeah, Mario Addison.
I think he does. I remember yelling his name a couple times. So I think he does. He's been getting there, okay. But yeah, I know Pierre asked a question about Epinesa as well, and if I think he's been struggling at all. I'm not really sure. I actually haven't been watching him too much on film, just because it's not a name so far this season that has come up a lot. I think I've been focusing so much on the offense just because we're all so shocked about how good Josh Allen is and this offense is, that I kind of forgot that, hey, we drafted AJ Epinesa. I forgot about that. So I think that's something that I definitely want to look into more. I know he got his first sack. It's just kind of chasing down Goff. Wasn't anything special really. But yeah, we really haven't heard his name too much. So I'm not really sure. I'll have to take a closer look and see kind of how he's been doing.
I think it's also really early to judge if he's struggling, because he's literally only played 2 games. Like, he wasn't even active for the first game. I think he only had 17 snaps in the second game. Last week he had 24 maybe. So it's not like he's been getting a ton of time. So they're just slowly building him up. And I mean, with what I've seen from him, I'm happier not noticing him as a rookie than really noticing him because he did something bad. So I haven't noticed anything that he did really poorly, which to me is a positive.
Yeah, I think you can look back at Ed Oliver too. Ed Oliver did not have a great first half of his season last year. It really wasn't until that Cowboys game when he kind of stepped up and really started to get into the backfield. Maybe that was, he was in his home state again. Maybe that got him a little fired up, gave him a little bit of juice. But it was kind of a similar thing, whereas, early in the season, it's like, I'm not really hearing Ed Oliver's name that much. So hopefully it's just kind of a similar thing where he's still just kind of getting acclimated, needs to be a little bit, the game moves faster in the NFL than it does in college. So, Syracuse.
Yeah. So this is actually a little bit behind the scenes, because we actually had a pretty lengthy discussion about this in the Fanatics chat, where some people were saying Jerry Hughes is going to get his sack. Some people were saying they're just not going to come. it was a pretty big deal. I can't remember which day it was, but earlier this week, Jerry Hughes was actually a pretty big topic of discussion. Kevin, I'm going to flip this one to you. What are your thoughts first on Jerry Hughes? Because I don't know if I'd say he hasn't done anything in 2 years, but I'll leave this one up to you to start.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Jerry Hughes just isn't a sack guy. He's living off of 2 years in a 10-year career. The Bills fans always get at me for that, but he's just not that guy. What he is he's a disruptor. There's a difference between disruption and production. And Jerry Hughes is one of those guys that's going to get a lot of pressures. He's going to get a lot of hurries, which is important. So it's not that he's not doing nothing. It's just he can't finish. He's had 2 years out of 10 where he had 10 sacks. And in those 2 years, he was the fourth best guy in the line. It's been half a decade since he's had a productive sack season. Now, to be considered one of the better guys. Now, I heard, it's because we put him in Rex Ryan's scheme. It doesn't fit. He's covering. The guy covers like 2 snaps a year. Every time you're in a nickel and dime package, he's playing a 4-man line. Then they got rid of that scheme. So the Bills were, this is going to be the year. Nothing. Then it was, he needs a dynamic pass rusher on the other side of him so that he can clean it up. Well, then Lorenzo Alexander gets 11.5 sacks, and he goes to the Pro Bowl. Nothing from Hughes. Then it was like, he needs a present up the middle. Then you draft Ed Oliver. Nothing. At this point, you just got to understand that he's a good player. He's a hustler. He seems like a nice guy. I like his attitude, but he's not a premier sack guy. He isn't. When 2 out of 10 years, that's not the norm. That's the aberration. And that's because Mario Williams was playing at an almost defensive MVP level. Kyle Williams was destroying teams, and even Marcel Darius was super productive at that point. That was what was his name? The old Lions coach who went on. He was your defensive coordinator.
Jim Schwartz.
Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, that was a good defense. You guys were kids, especially every time you played Miami. But it was just a slaughter. But anyways, he's a good player, Hughes. But Addison is like a 10-sack guy. He's going to be the guy that's going to finish. And Hughes is probably going to flush some of them out, and Addison will probably get him to the ground.
Yeah, so I think with Hughes, I think Daniel kind of hit the nail on the head here. Hughes gets pressures, but not many sacks. I think he's a great guy to have on the team. And Kevin, I want to disagree with you, but I can't really about Jerry Hughes because he really hasn't had that statistical production that he had those 2 years. But he is constantly winning his pass rush reps. I think it's right now he's leading the league at 66% or something along those lines. So he's winning his reps, but he just doesn't finish and get the sacks. He's the type of guy that if you're lining up as a defensive end, you probably want Jerry Hughes on the opposite side of you because he's going to push the quarterback over to you so that you can get your sack. Clay, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I agree with what Kevin said for the most part. He's a good disruptor, He can get in there and get a hand up and maybe make the quarterback feel a little bit of pressure, and that'll work against some of the younger guys, some of those rookies maybe that aren't used to that pocket collapsing like that. It's great against those because he'll just kind of disturb them a little bit, maybe throw them off their game. But he doesn't get that many sacks, so I think he's kind of there to serve that role of, I'm going to get the pressure. Can someone else get the sack for me, please? Or, can we get someone to tip the ball or something? But yeah, he has kind of struggled with finishing those. And I think it's probably because he's not very versatile as a pass rusher. He's a speed rusher. You don't really see him try to use power too much. He's maybe done it a few times, but he's a speed rusher. So once you figure out, what his strength is and how to stop it, I think maybe guys have done that after his couple, 10-sack seasons. They're like, oh, well, this is how we stop this guy. So, when you're a little, you're not as dynamic as far as that goes in your skill set. It kind of limits you as a player, and I think that might be what's going on with Hughes.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a negative to Hughes because he's had a very solid career. Still, he's very good for what he does, and he's had a couple of really big years, and he's been consistent with the type of player he is. I think the rest of the time he's been in Buffalo. I think the issue that we're running into at the moment is that a lot of people are still expecting him to be that 10-sack player.
Yeah. I gotta address this one comment.
I know which one you're going to.
Okay. So the Twitter thing. So I was watching football with Rico in his basement, and we talked about this play off of a broadcast angle. And then he takes my comments, finds like the best example he can find, throws it out there on Twitter. And for 2 friggin' days, I heard nothing. Like my phone was, I kept having to charge it because everyone he puts it out there and every Bills fan's just hammering me. So then I finally see the other angles. And then like an idiot, I actually reply to the thread. No, I saw it. I was wrong. But all that does is refresh it. No one reads to the bottom of 150 comments. And I got another 2 days of getting chat on. Thanks, Rico.
You're gonna leave that out when he can't even defend himself on his own show right now.
Or like we get into an argument, he'd be like, "Well, let me see what the people say," and he throws it out there. I'm like, put it on Twitter where every follower you have is a Bills fan. Hardly an impartial crowd.
It's the right crowd, though, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to get a lot of support. You know what I mean?
I do think that was a good pass, by the way. Could it have been better? I don't know. Maybe it's hard to say, but it was a pretty tight window that he threw through, and he put it where only Davis could get it. I don't think Davis should have caught the ball. It was an incredible catch too.
Great catch.
But
he's made a couple of really good catches now with that one, and then his catch on the deep ball on the sidelines. Like he's had a couple of really nice grabs. I've been really impressed with him. I know everybody was like fawning over him in training camp, but he's actually showed up and backed that up in the game so far.
Yeah, he looks really good. Definitely.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
So let's transition over a little bit now. I want to focus more on the game against the Raiders specifically. Obviously, like Josh Allen can have a big day against just about any team at this point. I think that it's possible, at least. Maybe not it's going to happen, but it's possible. He could have a big statistical day. I'll go to Clay first. Who do you think, other than Josh Allen, is primed to have like that big statistical day against the Raiders on the Bills offense?
For me, it's Devin Singletary. We've kind of been waiting all year for him to have that big day. He hasn't really had, what we've expected from him so far. I think he's had some good runs here and there, but he's not getting fed the ball like we expected him to either. So because Josh is so productive in the pass game so far, but I think this is the game where it's time to give him the ball. It's time to give him a ton of carries this week. Especially, I know Moss is questionable. He might be back. Hopefully he is, because I would love to see as many runs as possible this week. The Raiders defense ranks 30th in the league in yards per carry given up at 5.6. So it's time. It's definitely time to give the ball to Singletary and let him do his thing. Like I said, you got to take advantage of what the Raiders give you, and they don't have a good run defense. You got to take advantage. Give him the ball. I want to see 20 plus carries at least for him. You gotta feed him this week.
And you can see some of the people who are commenting, they agree with you also that Singletary could be that guy. Kevin, do you think that there's another guy outside of Singletary who's primed to have that really big day?
Other than Singletary, maybe Diggs. Like, who's their number one corner in Oakland? Like,
was it Damon Arnett, I think, and he's out, or he's questionable or doubtful. Like, he's unlikely to play pretty much.
I don't even know who they got back there right now. So, like, yikes. You know what I mean? So I think that they should try and get Singletary going, because why not? This is like a practice game for you guys. So I think get Singletary going, get everything firing up. But if there was going to be someone else, I don't know who's going to be covering Diggs over there, but it's not looking good.
No, it's definitely not. I think almost any of the wide receivers could have a big day against the secondary. So I'm going to actually propose another guy to you guys. I think Gabe Davis is actually primed to have a big day. We've seen him have a really big catch against your Dolphins. And then we saw him have just a couple of nice grabs against the Rams. Do you think that Gabe Davis, even though it sounds like John Brown is going to play, do you think that Gabe Davis, Clay, could have a big day against the Raiders despite I think every single offensive player other than probably Moss is going to play.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we've been hearing such great things about him since training camp started, and how he's been doing this and that. He's been really impressive. Even his knowledge. He's been he's been coaching up other people on plays, and that was since the very beginning, and how well he knows the playbook. And we saw on the fly in the middle of last week's game, he took over for John Brown, because there was, I think, in a couple of those interviews, it was, I think Josh might have been with the guy. He was saying, "Oh, those, this play that I threw to Davis, that was John Brown's play. That was John Brown's route." So I think even, he says if Brown's out, Davis has 100 yards, Abe Fromm in there. But I think even if Brown is in, he might still be able to have a breakout day like that, just because, Brown is coming off of an injury. Maybe they'll kind of put him out there because he'll be a threat, because he is a guy that you have to watch out for if you're on a defense. And then maybe Gabe Davis kind of slips in behind there and has a good game. And based on the scheme that they run, it really just depends on where he lines up, because I think they do have a lot of designed plays where it's easy reads for Josh Allen. They're going to isolate one guy with two receivers. Does he take the underneath guy or does he take the over top guy? And Gabe Davis filled that role for John Brown last week. So I think it's more about where are they being placed. So, maybe because John Brown's coming off that injury, Davis takes that second spot for a little more of those reps. And I think he could have a big game because of that.
Thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah. I think I see one of the comments, Eric. The reason we're going with Gabe is because we think that this is going to be an easy, at least I think, this is going to be an easy game for you guys. So why keep Brown in there? Like, if you guys get up pretty early, get him out. And let him.
Yeah, that's my thought. And
then have Gabe Davis get those reps. Can you find the comments from the Kingpin there? He's talking about
which one are you looking for?
He's looking for the one where he thinks that instead of, we're not doing matchup based anymore, we're just going to trust Josh Allen. That one there.
All right, let me scroll and find that one.
Anyway, he's talking about how instead of, we're talking about the running game, and he was saying, well, I thought last game was going to be that, and it turned out not to be. But I think that Pierre, I think last game what happened was he gave up like 34 second half points. So or however many, like 30 some second half points. So you had 29. So you had to keep throwing. I think you're going to be up early against the Raiders. I don't think this is going to be a contest. So maybe you keep bombing away when you're up by like 17, 18 points, maybe. But maybe this is the game where, when it doesn't seem like much of a contest, you get your running game going. I don't think it's going to be close. So that's why I think the running backs have a good shot this week to shine.
Yeah, there's actually a comment that I wanted to go to real quick from Chance. This one right here. So Chance said, "Where's the O-line love? A big shuffle, and they've been solid." So I'm actually going to disagree with this. I don't think they were solid. I thought they were terrible in the second half last week. They struggle a lot, and it wasn't just with Aaron Donald either. Did you see the same thing, Clay?
Yeah. I was not – the first half, I was very impressed. First half, it's, oh, my God, I haven't heard Aaron Donald's name yet? This is incredible. How are we doing this? And then the second half, it all fell apart. And, we had an injury. Dawkins got injured at one point, and that's not going to help you out. But they put Brian Winters in at one point, and I was, I didn't have a problem with Brian Winters coming in when we signed him. I thought, he'll come in and be competitive. He's solid. He's not the worst. He's not the worst O-lineman ever. He'll make his plays, but he did have some plays that I was a little worried about too, where it's just his lateral movement is not there. I don't know why they need to stop. They need to stop putting him in, really, I think, because he's just he keeps on giving up these big plays. You watch the replay and he's just he's like a matador out there. So it's I want to see if they do put him in. I want to see him play a little bit better than he has been, or maybe move on to somebody else and give somebody else a shot over there. But the thing is they have options. At least they can shuffle around if they want to. And when Dawkins goes down, it's okay. Well, we got a bunch of guys that can play any position. Where should we put him? Cody Ford, he can play tackle, he can play guard. Ty Nsekhe, you can throw him around and some different positions as well. And then you got Williams. this is the deepest O-line we've probably ever had, which I think is, the benching of Quinton Spain, it was a little interesting as well. But yeah, I think
it was very out of the blue, at least in my perspective too. I did not see that coming until like game time showed up, and all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, Quinton Spain isn't playing today. He's not starting today.
Yeah.
What's going on? I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't know. The second half, they just got gashed, though. It was not pretty to watch. Aaron Donald had his way like Aaron Donald does. And even when I don't think they doubled him enough either, which I was a little disappointed in, because a lot of times he was just, a hat on a hat, and you can't do that with Aaron Donald. But I don't think it's too much of a problem. Allen has the ability to get out of the pocket pretty easily. We've seen him break countless tackles and get to the outside. So even if the offensive line is not crazy, the only guy you really got to watch out for is what's that guy's name there? That big, tall defensive end on the Raiders.
Max Crosby.
His name right now. Yeah, Crosby. Yeah, Mad Max.
Yeah, I really wanted the Bills to take him. I thought he was going to be. I was disappointed when the Bills didn't take him. I'm going to flip this over to Kevin real quick, because I think that there is an element to the offensive line with as great as Josh Allen has played this year. I think there's an element to his game where he's always going to put himself in a situation every now and then, like not consistently, but every now and then he'll have himself in a situation where the offensive line didn't break down, but he kind of forced himself into a place where it looks like they did. Do you think that, as an outside perspective, do you think that that's partially on Josh also, or from what you've seen, do you think that's more on the offensive line?
I'd say the line's playing better this year than last year. I'm going to say hello to my man DM3. I see him in the comments. Always good to see him. I hope you got the Lakers game on in the background. The other thing I was going to say is, the line's played better this year. But there is an element, and it's not just Josh Allen. It's like with any mobile quarterback, it's tough sometimes to pass block, because when they move around like they do, it's your backs to them, right? And it's tough sometimes to know where they are and where they're going and to see it. And then you lose the angle or, that sort of thing. So there is an element to that. I think the line play could improve, but you ran the ball fairly effectively. Like your yards per carry has been pretty good in both games. The pass protection's better. And I think that Williams at right tackle is eventually going to pay some dividends. Cody Ford was always a guard to me. So I think settling him in somewhere is going to be good. But, it's definite improvement over last year, but there's still some ways to go.
Yeah. That makes sense. So we have about 12.
Sorry, my man. I have to roll. The Lakers are in the final, but
you're good.
Yes, but it was a lot of fun, guys. And also, I'll jump out here and leave you in these capable hands of these two gentlemen. And don't let Pierre bully you. Right?
Let me get a go Bills from you real quick before you head out.
Oh no,
we're the shot. We're the shot.
All right, lads. Take care.
All right, see you.
All right, see you, Kev.
All right, so let's finish this up. We have about 12 minutes left. We're going to go until around 10:30 Eastern time. I want to get into real quick some hot takes, some bold predictions. So that's what I do on my show. If you haven't listened to my podcast, Nap Knows Bills, it drops every single Friday, and I like to do bold predictions, and I like to do the listeners' bold predictions. So I wasn't able to get to all of them on the show. There was a ton of responses, wasn't able to get to all of them. I actually have two that I want to get to on this show.
Okay. Right
here, right now. And then if anybody in the comments wants to throw up a bold prediction, if we have time, maybe we can get to that too. I know normally we do questions at the end, but I want to try and do bold predictions here. So the two that I have, we'll start with the first one. I have it from T. Estelle. And T. Estelle says Diggs goes for 150, Beasley goes for 100, Allen goes for 300 with 4 TDs, and Davis has 2 TDs. Do you think that that's too bold? I see the look on your face right now. Are you thinking that's too bold?
So we got Allen has how many touchdowns? 4?
Allen throws, I don't know if it's throwing for 4 or throwing for 3 and running for 1, whatever, but Allen's accounting for 4 TDs.
Okay. And then Diggs has 150 and a TD. Davis has 2 TDs. Beasley has 100.
Yeah, Diggs has 150, Beasley has 100, and Davis has 2 TDs.
I could see Davis getting 2 TDs, maybe. We haven't really seen him as a red zone target yet. I would love to see it. I want to see him, I want to see that fade ball. And just let him go get it. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons they brought him in. They didn't really have a lot of size at wide receiver. So, yeah, throw up a couple balls to him. They don't have elite cornerback play over there in Las Vegas. I'm going to have to get used to that.
I still mess up San Diego and Los Angeles all the time. It's still the San Diego Chargers to me. I mess that up all the time.
Yeah. But, 100 yards from Beasley, 150 from Diggs, 300 from Josh. I could see that. I could see all that happening. I don't think that's too much of a stretch, really. The only thing really would be kind of focusing in on those 2 guys specifically is those are really going to be the 2 guys that are catching most of the passes in that case, which could definitely happen. We've seen Josh make big plays like that. We know Beasley can do games like that, and we know Diggs can have games like that. So the 2 touchdowns to Davis, I think, might be probably the biggest stretch there, but I still could see it happening.
I think the toughest part is if Allen doesn't go too far over 300. Like for this prediction, if Diggs gets over 150, Beasley gets over 100. If Allen would have to probably get like 400 for that to be reasonable because he's been spreading the ball around like crazy.
He really has, yeah.
Yeah. And there was another one that would actually make it even easier. And we got a super chat, so I'm going to pull that up in a second. But Brandon Chapman said Josh throws for 500 yards. Let me get your thoughts on that real quick.
Well, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it happen. I just don't think it's going to. I think there's going to be a lot more running in the game plan this week, although I could be wrong. I said they were going to run the ball against Miami after what the Patriots did to them, and they didn't. They passed the heck out of the ball, and they threw it all over the place against them. So I could definitely be wrong. I think Dable is going to play his game no matter what. 500 yards, that's a lot. I think that at that point it goes beyond skill, because I think does he have the capability of doing it? Yeah, but he's got to get, we need to have a little bit of luck. There's got to be some crazy 80-yard touchdown play or something like that in order to, really jack those stats up. And we're going to have to be in a close game. So that's the reason I think that's probably unlikely, is because I don't think we're going to be in a close enough game in the second half or toward the end of the game for him to still be having to sling the ball down the field. I think that's really where I think it kind of gets a little bit fuzzy. If it's a close game, yeah, I could absolutely see that happening. It's just we're gonna have I think a lot of luck comes into play at that point.
Yeah, and I think here we go. Cordero Linder actually agrees with you that it's not going to be a close game. He says 45-10, Buffalo goes 4-0, and the defense goes back to normal. I like that. I would love to see that. I think every single Bills fan would be happy about that if the defense can get back on track, put it all back together. I don't know how likely it is that the defense goes fully back to normal just that quickly. I think it's probably going to be a little bit slower of a process, but I would love to see that. Do you think that this is likely or just more like has a chance?
Definitely has a chance. Likely is always hard to say because we don't know how those guys are thinking. It's because it's so much of a mental game that you need to get your mind right. And I think last week against the Rams was a big prove-it game for the offense and for Josh Allen. It's, it's sure they played the Jets, they played the Dolphins, they beat both of them easily. What happens when they go up against a team like the Rams, who a lot of people are saying Sean McVay's return to form, Goff's return to form, Aaron Donald's a beast, and then you got Jalen Ramsey, who just got a big contract extension. So I think maybe this week it's a prove-it game for the defense. You're going up against Josh Jacobs, who's been, he's been on an absolute tear since he got drafted, and he's just a complete beast. So, and can you shut down Darren Waller like the Patriots did last week? I think they should definitely be really heavily studying that Patriots film and seeing what they did to shut the Raiders, to shut Darren Waller down specifically. But I think it's a big prove-it game for the defense this week. I'd love to see them go back to normal, but like you said, maybe not completely. I think, maybe they'll step up a little bit, but it's hard to go, kind of 0 to 100 like that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of stopping the Raiders offense, what I saw with the Patriots is they actually took away the dump off pass from Derek Carr. So that's something that's an interesting thought. You don't see teams doing that all the time because a lot of quarterbacks, that's not like one of their top reads. Like Derek Carr likes to go to his dump off pretty quickly. So maybe the Bills focus on doing that. If they can take that away and take Josh Jacobs away, then I think this score prediction 45-10 has a pretty good chance of happening. But if the Bills can't take Josh Jacobs away, if they can't slow him down, then even if the Bills offense is just scoring every single drive, the Raiders are still going to get some points and they're going to wear the defense down. Eventually they're going to, get an extra touchdown or something. Like if this is going to happen, I think the Bills defense would have to go even farther than back to normal because the running defense was the struggle last year. They would have to really improve on the running defense to hold the Raiders to just 10 points, just because they do have that grind away mentality.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, the 10 points I think might be a little low just because it is, you can't really stop Josh Jacobs. I think, you can slow him down, but I don't think you can completely stop him. And the only way you can take him out of the game is make Derek Carr throw the ball by getting an early lead. So if they do that, I definitely think that's a good possibility that the Raiders don't score as many points. So I think, that's best case scenario really. But yeah, I think, there's a comment here as well. Milano did good on Higbee, kind of going back to the Waller thing, covering up Waller. But yeah, I expect to see Milano probably on Waller a little bit. Maybe they'll bring in someone, like Hyde or Poyer down every once in a while to cover Waller as well, just because he did have that big breakout game. And Ruggs is hurt. Waller's going to be the number one target. Him and Renfro both are going to be getting a lot of targets.
Maybe Zay Jones too. I mean, this is just wild. Like this isn't. This can't happen.
Yeah, Zay Jones revenge game. I think if he gets 3 catches, that's a good revenge for Zay Jones. Yeah. Because he's not the guy that we wanted him to be when he was coming out. He'll get a few targets because Ruggs is out. I think they got another wide receiver out as well. Yeah, Zay Jones. If Zay Jones scores 1 touchdown, I'll be pretty surprised.
Yeah, same here. Real quick, we're going to go to one more after this, but I feel like we probably should have mentioned this earlier.
Yes,
happy birthday to the Kingpin, Pierre. Shout out, Pierre. Happy birthday. Hopefully you had a great birthday, and hopefully your birthday is continuing past this show.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone go wish Pierre Kingpin happy birthday. So, yeah, big shout out to him. And
let's get this last one. Let's get this last one real quick.
Okay.
Bold prediction. Bass hits a 72-yarder with no time on the clock, and the Bills win 45-17. I mean, logistically, that's just not going to happen. But I saw it, and it made me laugh. I just couldn't scroll past it.
Yeah. So, first of all, they're going for a 72-yarder with no time on the clock. Is this at halftime? When is there going to be no time on the clock where we're kicking a 72-yarder if we're winning 45-17? Yeah. Does he mean pregame? Yeah, pregame warm-ups? Yeah, he can hit one in pregame warm-ups.
Oddly enough, I actually just saw this clip going viral this week. When Lane Kiffin was the coach of the Raiders, he trotted Sebastian Janikowski out there for like a 76-yard field goal at one point.
Oh, and he missed by a mile, right?
He barely even made it to the goal line. Yeah. So I mean, that's obviously it's not going to happen. But
we're not in Denver yet either. 72-yarder. I don't think you try that unless you're in Denver. And then 45-17. Why are you going for a 72-yarder? Why is it with no time on the clock? I love the enthusiasm though. I would love to see Tyler Bass absolutely hit a piss missile out through the goalpost from 72 yards. So,
right. And if for some reason it is a close game and the Bills have to kick a field goal, a long field goal, do not pull a Doug Peterson and punt it. Just go for it. No ties, all about the win. And let me get a quick score prediction from you real quick though.
I did one of these with Jay Spence. I think I said something like 31-21. I think,
I got 31-17.
Yeah, Jacobs is going to have his way a little bit. He'll get a touchdown. He'll have a good drive where he sets up Carr for a touchdown. But ultimately, I think the Bills' offense is so hot right now, and the Raiders' defense are not the guys to stop them. I think they're still gonna get the ball down the field pretty easily, and I think it's gonna be a pretty solid win again.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. So I think that's probably gonna do it. Make sure you are checking out the BuffaloFanatics.com. Get any of your insight, read some of the articles that go up there. I think we're putting up 1 or 2 articles on the daily, if not more. Check out Buffalo Fanatics on Instagram at the Buffalo Fanatics. Follow on Twitter if you're not already following on Twitter at BFlow Fanatics. And make sure you are getting some merch, right? Like you want something like this, you dig? Go to the BF fan shop, get your merch. Get your Buffalo Fanatics shirt. Get there's so many good shirts out there. So many good hoodies. Everything. Whatever you're looking for, I won't say whatever because, I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff that we don't have yet, but just about whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for Bills gear, the place you want to go to is the BF fan shop. So make sure you do that. And, any parting words, Clay?
Not really that I could think of, other than go Bills.
All right,
need another win this week.
That's a perfect way to end it. Let's get to 4-0 and go Bills.
Go Bills.